Okay. It is noon Eastern on Wednesday, November 2nd, Practice the Power Academy webcast. I'm Joe Lucas, the creator, founder of Practice Power Academy. I've had the privilege of coaching advisors for nearly 25 years. And what these webcasts are really my way of giving back to the members of Practice Power Academy and to really just kind of, I guess, add value, because I'm a big believer in that, and no fluff, right? So what we want to do here in these webcasts is spend maybe 30 to 40 minutes, put a topic on the table, hit it hard, get some questions answered, and get you all back to doing what you need to do so you can get out of your offices and spend time with your families. A couple of announcements really quick before we get into our topic of the week. So here are the dates for our live business planning webcast. They are going to be December 19th, 20th, and 21st. So over 3 days. We're going to start noon Eastern time, which is, again, East Coast, West Coast. We also have some international participants. And I'm sorry for some of you people that are going to be getting up at 6 a.m. or want to be up or staying up till 2 a.m. I guess the old saying, the needs of the many, right, versus the needs of the few. So we're going to be working, those timelines. So 4-hour chunks. So let me explain how this is going to work. We will be posting information both in Practice Power Academy, and then also I'll send some notes out to you via email, maybe including in the invitations to these webcasts. It's a separate registration process. All members, whether you're Elite Access or not, can attend the webcast. However, only Elite Access members will have access to the downloads, the templates, the forms, the online pieces, and so on. So if you want to hang out and kind of do your own thing, my gift to you. If you want all the materials, again, you have to be an Elite Access member, so just be aware of that. Those dates are locked in. As I promised, early November, we would get them on the board. There they are. Now, we have 8 modules to do. So do I sit there and say we're going to use every minute of the 4 hours? Probably not in all cases, but I just want to manage your expectations in there. The other question, will I be spending 4 hours straight through? No, I need some water. I need to use the bathroom from time to time. So it's just like a live event. We will take some time, take some breaks, some pauses, if you will, and stuff like that. So again, as we get closer to it, I'll talk about some best practices along the way in one of these future webcasts here. Next, I'm very excited. It looks like we're going to be able to launch our study group. Several of you have already kind of reached out to me. We will have something more formal on that in the next couple of weeks, an actual web page where you can look at the material, look at kind of what this group's all about, apply, and get interviewed by me and see if it's a good fit. So again, we'll get that out to you guys in the next couple of weeks or so on that. And then I finally got my team to get all of the recordings up until this one up on my YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel is Coach Joe Lucas. So if you go to YouTube and search, you'll find it there, and then you subscribe to the channel, and then anytime I upload any information, you'll find it there. So good news, you don't even have to log into Practice Power if you want to go ahead and just get the replays on these things, public domain. And with all these that we're doing, and my coaching cast and things like that, I think we're almost up to 1,000 videos on the website, on the channel. So if you want some really cool information, I mean, it's out there for you. And my sense is that I don't believe any other coach or coaching company provides so much free information, gratis to the industry. So that's just, again, my way of saying thank you for giving me the opportunity these last nearly quarter century. All right, so enough of that. Topic for the week. I got a lot of feedback on what we did 2 weeks ago on how to convert to a fee-based practice, quote unquote, how to deal with the DOL. And a lot of you kind of wrote, hey, can we get a little bit more granular? Can we kind of do a deeper dive into it a little bit? And then I thought about it. I said, you know what? It's a good time because I know a lot of the firms right now are starting to release what they're going to do or how they're going to approach DOL, right? Whether you're going to have a BICE agreement versus a non-BICE agreement, and if you do, what for? All these things are now starting to, we're starting to get some clarity as an industry on what this is going to look like. So I think the timing is really good, and I want to get this kind of on the board so you can review it and things like that, because it is going to affect business planning. One of the things I will say is I literally just talked to a team of mine that I personally coach and work with for many years, and we've got literally 400 households that have IRA accounts that need to have a conversation, need to have a meeting, right? Well, that's a huge undertaking, and then their firm is giving them only through the first quarter of next year to kind of wrap this thing up. So all of a sudden when you start doing planning for next year, how chunky of a project are you going to have in order to, in other words, to really look at your business and do any kind of reorganization that you need to do to be compliant? And then the other thing is, what's the choice you're going to make? What's your plan? Are you going to use a BICE agreement? Are you not? If your firm allows it, is it going to be you go fee with us, or you got to move the assets? What is the fee? All these things need to be discussed amongst yourself and get a philosophy, and I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go through our webcast today. So that's what we're going to do. Is I want to give you some some tools, if you will, some strategies on how to roll this out to your client base. All right. So first off, last week I spent literally the entire week visiting 4 clients, and I like going out seeing my partners. Like to sit in their offices, meet with their teams. You get to learn a lot about where an operation is when you spend literally a day in their office and get a feel for things. One of the takeaways I have on that is that when I did some role playing with some of my partners on this very subject, I found them using some bad language, and I don't mean curse words. I mean it's just some bad language. So, for example. Never use the word cost. Here's what your costs are going to be, this versus that. 4-lettered word, C-O-S-T, right? It's not something you ever want to use. You want to use the word fee, that's fine. You want to use the word, the investment in our services, that's fine. Never talk about cost, because people don't like cost. People want to reduce cost. So again, it's just a subconscious anchor association that you want to be very, very clear upon, so you want to be careful about that. The other thing is the word change. Most human beings don't like the word change. So if you want to use the word shift, hey, we need to shift into this type of an account. We need to shift into this kind of arrangement. We need to evolve into this type of arrangement. I think those are all great words. When you tell somebody, hey, we need to make some changes, typically they go on the defensive. So the terminology I always like is, look, I'd like to sit down with you. There's some shifts that are coming in our industry, and I need to lay out for you what our options are going to be. Notice ours, not yours, ours. I'm always going to be inclusive in my communication, as if, hey, we're on the same team. We're on the same time. This is about us, not what you want to do, but what do we need to do together to get the outcome that we want. So there's just some languaging that you need to be careful of. So change, do not use. Shift, evolve, great words, right? Remember, there are certain, like I said, trigger words, right? Cost, change. These things put a person in a certain pattern. And you want to avoid those patterns, because those patterns are not in your best interest, right? And when you use different terms, different languaging, what happens is the person now has to think about, what does that mean? And now they stay conscious. They don't go into an automatic. So I always want them present when we're discussing things. Okay, so just some languaging that way. So again, fee, never use the word change. Always talk about shifting, evolving, things like that. Great words. There's a way to language things, and I just and if you want to get some background on this, Robert Cialdini on influence. There's certain trigger words. Anything on neuro-linguistic programming. Again, certain trigger words. There's some stuff out there that you can just probably look it up on YouTube if you want also, and just start educating yourself on becoming a better communicator. Not to be a better salesperson or anything like that, but to be able to sit down with a human being and communicate and learn the words that make sense and learn the words that could be a challenge to you. Okay, do you want to make that comment? Next, Now this is more about kind of where we're coming from here, abundance versus scarcity. So one of the things that it became pretty apparent to me in talking to a number of my clients going on the road is that, how are you looking at this whole shift that our industry is making? Are you looking at it from a scarcity mentality, which is going to cost you relationships, it's going to cost you revenue, it's going to cost you time, so on and so forth? And if that's your approach to this, then you're going to do this very begrudgingly, and your whole game plan is going to be, how do I get through these DOL projects? Never a good question to ask. Getting through things means that you're willing to accept the minimum, the good enough, right? And what I want you to do is understand and shift into abundant. Now, why do I say this is abundant? Well, number one, here's the good news. The entire industry has to shift. So it's not just, your firm making a decision or your custodian making a decision. The industry has got no choice but to make the shift, right? That's number one. Number two, I know all of you, at least most of you, have relationships that need to be fee-based. You just have never, either you've never gotten around to it, or you're too scared to get around to it, or you got a little pushback and you kind of dropped it. So in other words, now it's a must, not a should. And for several of my clients, we did some look on the math, and if we convert our dormant IRA accounts even a minimum fee, and we'll get into that in a little bit, it's going to be significant in terms of revenue and ongoing revenue. So in essence, we're going to come out of this in, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the timeline is, we're going to come out of actually in a better business situation going forward. So again, you can look at it a couple different ways. The other part of abundance, and this I'm much clearer on than I was 2 weeks ago. It is going to, I think you're going to see 20% of this industry leave this industry in the next 24 months. I think when the reality of what's happening, and I'm not going to put it, and I don't like the word age or older, because I think there's always exceptions, but the reality is, if a person's been doing a certain type of business for 30 or 40 years, and now they got to make a radical shift, especially one they don't want to make, and they disagree with, they may hang out, but they're not going to be effective, and their languaging is not going to be good. It's not going to be persuasive to the client, and they're going to go away. So I want to reiterate this, because this is one of my core beliefs on this whole thing. You're going to have less competition. Okay? You're going to have advisors leaving the industry that need to do something with their businesses. Somebody has to take care of those clients. The third piece, we're just now getting into the bell curve, the fat part of the bell curve, with the baby boomers' retirement windows. Next 8 to 10 years, we're going to have more money being put in motion than any other time in our history. So I got less competition, I got businesses that need to be bought, and I got baby boomers being retired. We are going to be in a golden age once we get through this. The challenge is you got to get through this. So you could focus on this change, and I'll use that word here, and get all freaked out about it, or you could realize that, hey, by shifting and converting, I'm going to be in a great situation where I can go forward. Okay, so again, what's your psychology? Do you look at DOL and shifting to more of a fee-based model, something that you begrudgingly want to do, or can I really embrace it? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to have a much better / solid business when I come through that. Okay. Next piece. This is one of the feedbacks I got from our last session. Letters versus phone call versus meeting. Joe, can I write a letter? Put whatever documents I need, whether it's a fee-based account form or of a BICE agreement or whatever I'm going to have, and can I send it out to the client and hope it works, right? And I'd say, man, you are one scared dude if that's the way you're going to operate, right? I mean, these are our clients. This is not some marketing campaign we're doing to the, we're doing out there to the public. So here's what I'm going to say. if this is about, we being the advisor and the client, right? We need to review your options. We need to look at what we need to do, right? I'm always going to say best thing to do is to sit down with them face to face. Best, right? If at all possible, sit down with them, not across the table, on the same side of the table, at the round conference table, whatever, and talk to them, look them in the eye, make it okay, educate them, communicate with them, all those things, right? If you can't do that, then do a phone call. Schedule a conference call, go over it with them, all the above, right? But do this real time. Don't sit there, because somebody said, well, can I put a webinar together and invite all my clients to come and I explain this whole DOL thing and stuff like that? And I thought about it for a second. I said, what's interesting? The problem is that you're not there to handle whatever questions they have. And if client A has a question and clients B and C don't have a question, now client A asks that question, now B and C have an issue, right? So I don't like that idea. I thought about it from an efficiency standpoint. I realized that it carries a lot of risk. So again, individual phone calls. I can't imagine in any way, shape, or form, and a client of mine, an advisor of mine, going out there and doing a letter. Now, if you can't get the meeting and you can't get the phone call, and then the only thing left to do is a letter, then yes. But the letter to me is like the last resort. And quite frankly, your custodian, your broker-dealer, your firm will probably generate a letter, whether you like it or not, at some point in this process, letting the client know that here's what we're doing, right? And I can't get into here's what we're doing because, quite frankly, some firms are going to just call center it. Anybody who's not compliant by X date, call center. And others are not going to do that. So again, I don't know what there's a lot of different people on this call, on this webcast, so I don't know your particular situation, and I don't want to talk about 15 different scenarios here, as you can imagine. Okay. Going back to what I said last webcast. People don't like change, so it would not be fair to them or you to say, hey, I got some news. We got this major change happening, 15-minute conversation. I need you to sign this. Remember, people, at least a lot of people, need time to process things. So the sooner you can get out there and have conversations with people. And again, and for those of you who were not here last time, you go on the YouTube channel and you can go ahead and just take a look at how we positioned the whole concept of change and how to talk to people and the different methods around that. But the key thing is this: people don't like change, and in most cases they're probably not going to be exactly jumping up and down for the concept that they now have to pay for something that in essence they got for free. Interesting conversation I had literally 2 hours ago. One of my clients got back from their annual conference. We were talking about this, and we'll get into the whole fee thing in a second. And they said, how do we, what's the right fee? How do we do this? And I said, look, if you've got somebody that's got $2, $3, $4, $5 million, and let's just say blended, you're right around a point, maybe 75 bips, maybe a little bit higher, whatever. It's still $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 of fees. Between everybody here and me, are you really providing $40,000 worth of value, or is it worth $40,000 of your time and stuff like that? Here's my point. This industry has a weird deal where I think at the upper end we can make, and people do make the argument that clients on the upper end are really, they're really overcharged for what they truly get, and then people that pay no fee, right, because it's non-fee based, legacy, whatever you want to call it, they get a great deal, and they're way undercharged, right? And so I think the industry is trying to find, I think the industry is going to try to find a balance on the two things. I think that's what you're going to have happen, all right? What's the right fee? There is no right fee, and here's what I mean. I can only tell you what I've talked to all the clients about and what's in their thinking, and we'll go with it from there. First thing I would say is don't look at the fee based on solely the one account. So I got this account, I got that account. You need to look at it from a standpoint of, here's a relationship, here's a household. What do I need to charge? What do I need to? Because again, you got to keep what's the other term? You have to keep uniform fees, right? So what's the uniform fee need to be across all these different accounts potentially to generate the revenue that I need as a business to serve the client, take on the risk, my time, and then earn a profit, a fair profit. So that's going to be something you're going to have to look at. But I would recommend look at it from a standpoint of the entire relationship, and then figure out what the fee needs to be. And look, everybody's got their minimums. I've got clients that have a $2,500 minimum revenue per household, $5,000, $7,500, $10,000. I've got one client, it's $25K a year. Otherwise, we don't work with them. So I can't sit there and say what it needs to be to you. But here's what I would say. As soon as you get them into a fee arrangement, you cannot, especially if we're going to operate under a fiduciary standard, you cannot just wrap the fee up and say, okay, great, they're compliant now, and we'll go back to the way things were, because you can't do that. So it's going to become, what is the fee that you're going to need to generate to do 4 calls a year, 1 review a year? What's the minimum that you're going to need for your time, your team's time, overhead, stuff like that? You got to have a sense of what your business costs are. So the other thing this is going to cause, which I think is a positive, the key thing here is to go ahead and basically figure out what the right fee is for you, what the right fee is going to be, what makes sense, and then put that in place. It's also going to cause advisors to understand their cost structure, which a lot of you, quite frankly, because I just know this from being around this thing, if I asked you, here's the question I want to ask you. What's it cost you to serve an A client? What's it cost you to serve a B client? What's it cost you to serve a D client? And so on. What are your costs? Any ideas? You need to know those numbers, otherwise how do you price things appropriately? Okay? So right fee, there is no such thing. It's philosophy. Some clients run a lean shop. They can run lean fees. Other of my clients run really high-end wealth management shops. Their fee of $1 for $1 is going to look different because the value proposition is different. The positioning is different, so on and so forth. So again, whatever fee you charge, you have to be good charging it. You have to be comfortable with it, right? And you have a right to earn a profit. So keep that in mind. All right. Now, here's the other piece about the conversation. I don't know how a rational person could do this. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you have this low-cost basis stock IRA gig here, and it's been here for many years. And, doesn't cost you anything other than maybe the annual IRA fee, whatever. And so what's going to happen now is we're going to put a fee on it. So instead of getting it for next to nothing, now it's going to cost you $3,000 a year, $5,000 a year, $10,000, whatever it is, right? Well, now you're going to pay this. So how does a rational person sit there and say, I got this for nothing, I really don't get much anyway, but I don't pay for it. So now I'm going to get the same thing I got before, but now I'm going to pay thousands of dollars for it. How does a consumer say yes to something like that? So what you need to do alongside of this conversation about fees and advisory and so on is you've got to make sure that you understand, hey, and because of the changes in the industry, we are now going to go into this type of relationship. We're going to go from a transactional relationship. We're going to shift, right, from a transactional relationship or a passive relationship to now one of an active advisory relationship. And what that means is that in our active advisory relationship, that, again, I'll give you the different models in a second, but just let me walk through the verbiage here. So what's going to happen in our active advisory relationship is that you and I are going to chat at least once a quarter intentionally, and you and I are going to meet at least once a year to do a thorough review, update your risk tolerance, look at your allocation, make sure everything's in alignment, and then you can give me some. Those are the two things that are going to happen. So from being passive, now you're going to be active, and that's the other reason why the fee is associated, because under law, we now have to act as a fiduciary, and the only way we can act as a fiduciary is that we really need to understand what's going on. We need to communicate, we need to plan, we need to tweak, we need to do these things, right? So you just don't say, hey, you're now paying for what you got for free. You need to shift it into a service model, change the value proposition, okay? In my way of building a practice and reorganizing the practice, I talk about my ABC model, and I'm just going to lay it out to everybody very briefly on the service model side. And I can't get into what an A client is for you, what's a B client. I'll give you some guidelines in a second. A client, top 20% of your book of business by revenue, trailing 12 revenue, not assets, revenue. A client, top 20%. That model, in my perfect world, would look like this. They will get a monthly phone call from you, even if it's a voicemail, and they will get a semi-annual or /2 sit-down reviews a year. So 12, 2. Got it? Next tranche is our B book, next 40% by trailing 12 revenue. And for those that are in transactional, that now are going to come into advisory, you estimate, are they going to fall into an A category, fall into a B category, fall into a C category, right? You look at that. And then obviously you communicate that appropriate service model to them. So the B client is our next 40% tranche. And in that 40% tranche, we're going to operate under a 6-1 model. Phone call every other month, annual review, 6-1. Our third tranche is our C book. And again, these are recurring fee advisory. C book is going to be the next 40% tranche, so 20, 40, 40. That is going to be our 4-1 model, quarterly phone call, annual review. Most of the times, those annual reviews be done over the phone or electronically, okay? ABC. So when you sit down with one of your current clients that's in a non-advisory, now non-compliant scenario, when you're talking about fees and shifting, you have to lay out the service model and the value proposition, right? So here's the shift. I talked to someone, literally, this came out this morning. We are going from we have been, but now we're really now here. We are going from a transaction research business to an advice guidance relationship business. And the advice guidance relationship business requires a fee in order to go ahead and do that. Okay? So again, communicate, create your relationship model, your service model, understand your value proposition. Okay? Last thing, and then we got some member questions, and then like I said, we'll start wrapping this up because it's the bottom of the hour. As I talk to clients and I look at different business development opportunities for my clients, what's really been interesting to me is the absolute dereliction of professionalism in our industry. And I'm not here to indict. Look, if you're on this call, I'm not here to indict you on this. So don't take it personally. But I can't, there's not a week goes by that at least 2 or 3 conversations that I have, and I have, probably almost 50 conversations a week. There's not a week goes by where at least 2 to 3 to 4 times I'm talking to a client and, hey, what's going on? Talk to me about the pipeline. What are we looking at? Who's coming on board? Where do we stand with some of these prospects? Where I don't get a story, hey, we're bringing in so-and-so, they're ACATing in, $800,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, whatever it is. I said, great, where's it coming from? And it's always coming from a firm. And I said, well, why is it coming? And it's literally 8 out of 10 times. They haven't heard from they haven't had a review in 3 years. They haven't heard from their advisor in a year. They get letters, right? Like Bill Good. So let me say this: never take the position that a bunch of letters and newsletters and garbage replaces a phone call. It does not. Okay? You cannot, this is a relationship business. You cannot lazy your way out of it. Either you're going to be connecting with your clients or you're not going to have them down the road. Getting back to my point. I see it every week, several times, and I say, are these fee-based accounts? Yeah, so think about this. There's somebody paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year, and they got nothing for it. Not a phone call, not a review, nothing. Point being is this. The level of competency in our industry is so low, it scares me sometimes when I truly think of it. How many lazy advisors there are. And I think it's just laziness. I just think that, they rather watch the markets and CNBC than talk to their clients. It's sad but true. Here are the 3 C's that all of you need to just burn in your brains. Number 1, care about your clients. Don't care about your planning process. Don't care about your models. Don't care about your business. Don't care about your portfolios. Care about the people who entrust you. Number 1. Number 2, communicate. Get on the phone. Call them. Hi, what's going on? How are you? Anything keeping you up at night? I wish I can. YouTube. I gotta be careful about this. Care. Give a crap about them, right? I mean, it's not that complicated. Either you like the people you work with, either you like your clients or you don't. If you don't, then they shouldn't be your clients. Third piece, just be competent. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to have an MBA and a CMA and a CFA level 1, level 2, and all that jazz. Just be competent. 3 C's, care, communicate, be competent. That's the bar. You do that in this new world of ours. You tell me how big of a business you want to create. You can create it. Not that complicated. Okay? So that's what I got for you today. We do have some member questions, so I want to go grab them real quick. And we always like to see if we can get and I'm seeing if she's available. I see Kate is here, but I don't think she's wired up on the phone. So I think she's just listening passively. So we'll see if we can get her back in a little bit. So Kate writes, how to convert existing clients from paying just AUM fees to also paying an ongoing coaching fee. So coaching fee, planning fee, consulting fee. At the end of the day, it's something in addition to AUM fees. And look, there's a lot of talk in our industry, and there's a lot of talk even in my client base on shifts, right, that we're having in the industry. And I do believe, this is my personal belief, that I'm not, look, anything I say will not be for everyone. So don't sit there and say, well, this is the way everything has to be. Not necessarily true. I think you're going to start seeing a very popular predominant practice model that is, hey, here's our relationship. We have 3 tranches to our relationship, or 3 deliverables to our relationship. Number one thing we want to do, we want to create a financial plan. We want to update that plan. We want to do a level of accountability around that plan. We want to coach and guide you on making sure we achieve those goals. And for that, there's a fee of X. And I can't get to what X is because for some of my clients it's $1,000, for some it's $5,000, for some it's $10,000, right? On planning fees and renewal fees. The second tranche we have is we're going to need to invest your money, your capital. And whether we do it in-house, again, I'm talking now just out loud here, whether we do it in-house or we hire third-party managers, but there's a fee for that part, right? And then the third piece is, if we have to go procure any type of insurance, protection type product, notice what I said, not buy, procure, right? Because nobody likes to buy, everybody likes to own. So procure a long-term care policy, life insurance policy, whatever. Obviously there's a fee for that, right? Which are just basically whatever the company charges. I have clients that play in all 3 areas with the same client. Now, if we're charging a planning fee and a renewal fee, does that mean that our AUM fees have to be super high? No. In fact, they're probably going to be lower, if not very competitive, right? Because we're picking this up. The reason why I ultimately like this model is because as a lot has been written about the whole concept of AUM fee compression, right? Robo and this, that. I mean, you could see a model in 5 or 10 years where, you know, the AUM fee is, I don't know, 50 to 75 basis points. There's a fee for planning and coaching and consulting, and then whatever the insurances are, right? Now, is somebody who's, you know, up there in age, who are used to paying commissions, now who have to go fee, are going to buy into that? Probably not. I don't want to just globally say no to that. I think what you'll see though is the boomers, and because now the transparency of fees, here's the thing, the transparency of fees are going to really make the industry very different. And I'll give you a quick story, then I'm going to go to Peter. This summer, one of my platinum partners, we got referred to a potential client who was at a major firm, a bank-owned firm. I'm not going to get into names. It was a $26 million relationship at this bank-owned broker-dealer, and it was a mishmash of fees and internal funds and blah, blah. So anyway, we get all said and done, it's about $187,000 of recurring annual fees, which, you know, on base of $26 million may not seem like a lot to a lot of people, or may seem okay. The problem was, A, the client didn't know what they were paying, and shocked, and not in a good way, how much he was really paying. And, you know, this is going to say even worse. He saw the advisor once a year, and he got a phone call from them once a quarter, maybe, to do like a quick quarterly checkup, right? Think about that. $187,000 gross revenue client, and this is how lazy this guy is. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But here's what I'm bringing up. This went out to bid. My guys were one of the bidders. Here was our proposal. We didn't do basis points or, you know, any of that. We just said this: we'd like to charge you a $50,000 a year planning consulting fee, and then what we'd like to do is invest your money based upon the plan and the allocation, and all we're going to ask you to do is pay the actual fees to invest. So we hire a manager, and that manager's 25 basis points. You're going to pay the manager 25 basis points, and that'll be all clear in writing, totally disclosed. We got that relationship partly because, A, we were going to be the cheapest, which is not the primary reason, but B, we're very clear on our fee disclosure. Here's the cool part. I got $50,000 a year here. I'm really not going to make anything on the AUM, but I have a big estate planning case here on the insurance side. And that's really neat, right? And we took this away from a big firm who, the last conversation they had, they couldn't get their mind around our proposal because they couldn't understand how we can do a flat fee. So be very aware from that perspective that you're going to see more and more of this planning fee, AUM fee, and whatever we want to do over here. You're going to see a lot more of that over the next 5 to 10 years. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. So it's really about how you position everything. You know, again, bucket here, the planning, AUM accountability, the managers, and how we run the money. Now, they did a pass-through because it was so big, right, $26 million. But could you sit there and say, hey, my managers are going to cost 25 to, again, assume we did SMAs. My managers are going to cost between 15 and 35 bips, depending on what I'm doing. And so I'll put 25 bips on top of that, and I'm going to be hyper competitive. I'll still be profitable here because I have this fee here, I've got this fee here, and whatever I got on the insurance side. I mean, I do have clients that have that model, very successful, very lucrative, and it kind of protects you from fee compression, which is always a cool thing. Let's go to Peter, if he's here, real quick, and I think we got a couple questions on the board real quick. Let me see if I can, if he's here, but I don't think he's on the line, so I'm going to try to do this, see if I got his question right. I'm going to do a mailing for January only for my office zip code and later do seminar invitations. What theme would I recommend? So so Peter, if you're doing like January workshops, and I think that's what we're talking about here. As far as themes go, I really like the idea, and I've tested this, and I'm going to actually make this a recommendation. So I guess I'll say it now. If I could have all my clients do a January event, a Welcome to 2017, health and wealth, or if you want to do just wealth, hey, 10 strategies to be a great investor in 2017, or 10 strategies to keep your money safe in 2017, or 5 or 8, whatever it is. I always like the concept of that in January, just because people, this is no secret here. The average human being, at least in America, is more open to change in the month of January than any other month. It's the New Year's Eve. It's the New Year's syndrome. I think Peter just popped up, so let me see if I can grab him real quick. Peter, can you hear us? Yeah, hear you now. Hey,
yeah.
Read me in on this.
I just go back to your previous videos as far as January is the time that a lot of people make changes.
Yes.
My strategy is I have a zip code for my office, and I got quite a few people that have a lot of assets between certain ages. What I want to do is, this is what I think you might change what my thinking is, but I want an introductory letter, and then the 2 weeks following that letter that I send out on January 2nd, I want to start giving breakfast seminars here in the office. The idea is that I'm at a zip code and they're at the same zip code, so in some cases it might even be walking distance.
Right.
But I don't know about an introductory letter, and then of course follow up with the 10 strategies for 2017 and so forth.
Right, whatever the talk is. So look, I've never had anybody do an introductory letter and then an invite. I don't think it'll hurt you. It can only help you, right, from that perspective. So I don't think there's anything negative at all. The demographic that you're going to be approaching, what's the typical demographic? Are they already retired? Are they pre-retirees? What's the demographic going to be?
1,400 people with $750 in assets between the ages of 55 and 70.
So primarily going to be, because here's the thing you got to take into consideration, okay? If they're working, they're not coming to a breakfast workshop. Even if they want to, they just can't, okay? So that's number one. So you got to say, so if I'm doing retiree, I can do lunch. If I'm going to do pre-retiree, I got to do dinner, all right? And that's just the reality of it. So my recommendation would be, because it's 55, so 55, you still got a lot of people are going to be working at 55 to 60, even in 65. So you're going to have a chunk of that 1,400 that will not be able to, even if they want to, can never make a breakfast or a lunch one. So I would say you may want to think about doing something around dinner, and I'll talk to you in a second about that. The second thing I heard was I'm going to do it in my office, okay? So nothing wrong with that if you're doing a client event and the conference room. I've got people that do that. My concern with the public is it's going to really cut into your response rates, because they're going to be coming to an office, and people don't view offices as public places. So I would much rather you find, and I'll give you some examples. I've got a client. They do some very small micro events, of kind of what you're talking about here. They'll do them at the library, and they'll have Panera cater it. So, for example, they'll do a lunch and learn at the library. The room costs $25. Panera, I think, is let's call it $15 a head for a box lunch, round numbers. So for under $100, they can host, maybe $100, $150, they can host 7 to 10 people in a small group, right? That works because it's public. So what I would have you consider is, the approach letter's fine, but I think what you have to do is some combination of lunch, dinner, and put some budget together for it. Do it right. Not that you have to go take them to a lavish dinner or anything crazy like that, but just know with that demographic, you're going to have a split market where you have retirees and pre-retirees, and they're really two different processes, right? Just from a timeline perspective. Right. So I'd say if there's like a local place that you can use, and even some buildings. Again, I don't know your setup. I think you're out in California, right? If I remember right.
Yeah.
sometimes if you're in a big enough office building, they may have almost like a conference room that you could use, a public room or something like that. You really need to, because to mail them, to invite them, and they say, oh, it's at an office, ooh, and they kind of do that. That's not our result we're going to want. So see if you can find a location. Again, doesn't have to be big cost. Like, for example, one of my clients uses not a Starbucks. It's a local coffee house that does like small little sandwiches, almost like kind of like we get Starbucks, if you will. They have a little private area there, and my client uses that, and all they got to do is pay for what's consumed. It's like 75 or $100. It's no big deal, right? So just if you can avoid the office, I would avoid the office. And and on the mailing, my perfect world for you would be, so the approach letter, great. On the invite, hey, I've got an event Tuesday for lunch, or Wednesday, hey, we're doing an event 12 to 1, and then if you can't make that, we're doing it, that evening, or Thursday evening, 5:30 to 7 or something, or 6 to 7 or something like that. And give people an opportunity on a choice. That's going to give you the best yield for your mailing, okay?
Okay, and about mutual fund sponsors, we can use those.
Sure. They got to be good for something, so let's use them for that. Perfect. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that a lot. Just my thinking.
No, that's good.
Yeah. So
they're all our friends.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, if you can get some budget for them, please do so. Absolutely.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the questions. Thanks. All right, cool. All right, we got a couple questions on the board here, real quick. I'm gonna go get through them, then we're gonna get going as soon as possible here. So thank you, Dave. Just a little note. So thank you for that. Can we charge fees if we already got commission on life and annuity sales? Great question from Don. Again, I'm not a compliance person, so I'm not gonna even go into that space there. However, again, if you're going to do financial planning or retirement income planning, and you're going to follow up, and you're positioned to charge a nominal, advisory fee or something like that, yes, I have got clients that charge a planning fee, even though there's an annuity payment, and even though there's life insurance. Yes, I do have clients. So again, financial planning, consulting, one bucket, AUM one bucket. The insurance is the insurance. So yes, just because you got paid on this bucket here doesn't mean you can't add value here. Great point. I've got one of my clients at a big FMO, and his offer was, which is crazy, hey, let me help you, and we'll meet 4 times a year and all this other jazz. And he got paid on some of the stuff like literally 8 or 9 years ago, and we instituted last year an ongoing, we call a financial checkup annually, or in some cases semi-annually. I think it's like $300 or $500, and people are willing to pay it if they're going to get value for it. Now, not everybody, but they will. So Don, in your case, yeah, you can. You just have to check with whether it's a broker dealer you're with, or an RA you're with, or whoever you're with. Figure out how you can do that. But yes, absolutely. And I think Kate is Kate, so we're good there. All right, so here's where we are. It is, wow, 10 of. So went a little longer than I thought. Sorry about that, everyone. Next webcast, a week from today, right? And I'll have some goodies for everybody. So again, please pop back in when you get the invite. Please say yes. And if you can't say yes, make sure you check it out on YouTube, Coach Joe Lukacs. And as you know, these are kind of open for everybody, so if you have some colleagues you'd like to, some friends in the business, not competitors, but friends, love to have them on these calls and add value to them also. Hey, have a great week. Be well. See you in 7 days. And with that, we are done.